What if I told you that the ancient Maya engineered a complete water infrastructure system so advanced that it sustained millions of people through brutal 6-month droughts without a single permanent river? Deep in the heart of the Yucatan Peninsula, beneath the jungle canopy, where annual rainfall can cease entirely for half the year, lies evidence of a hydrological engineering feat that modern experts are only now beginning to fully understand. We're talking about a civilization that transformed seasonal downpours into year-round water security using nothing but stone tools, astronomical knowledge, and an understanding of physics that would make contemporary engineers pause in admiration. How did the Maya accomplish this when they had no metal tools, no wheels, and no pack animals, yet managed to store millions of gallons of clean drinking water for cities of tens of thousands? The answer reveals an intelligence and sophistication that challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. Picture yourself standing in the central plaza of Tikal, in what is now Guatemala, one of the largest Maya cities that once housed over 100,000 people at its peak, between 200 and 900 CE. The limestone beneath your feet isn't just ceremonial flooring. If you look closely, you'll notice something remarkable. The entire plaza, spanning over 16 acres, slopes ever so gently, approximately 2 to 3 degrees, all angling toward carefully positioned channels carved into the stone. During the rainy season from May to October, this massive surface becomes a sophisticated catchment system designed to capture every precious drop of rainfall. The Maya understood something that modern urban planners spend years calculating. Surface area plus controlled gradient equals maximum water collection. These plazas weren't accidentally flat or randomly sloped. They were engineered. Recent archaeological surveys using LiDAR technology have revealed that virtually every major Maya plaza was constructed with these intentional gradients, transforming public gathering spaces into massive rain collectors during the wet season. Dr. Vernon Scarborough, an anthropologist from the University of Cincinnati who has spent over 3 decades studying Maya water systems, describes these plazas as the largest rainwater catchment systems in the ancient world. Even the pyramids and temple roofs fed into this system, their steep sides channeling water into the same network of canals that began at the plaza edges. But capturing water is only the first challenge. How do you move millions of gallons from collection points to storage without losing it to evaporation or spillage? The Maya solved this through an intricate network of canals and aqueducts that would impress modern hydraulic engineers. If we examine the canal system at Palenque in southern Mexico, we find stone-lined channels running for over 3 kilometers, some sections elevated on aqueducts, others carved directly into bedrock. These weren't simple ditches. Measurements reveal that Maya engineers maintained precise gradients of approximately 1 to 2% slope, steep enough to keep water flowing, but gentle enough to prevent erosion and turbulence that would stir up sediments. At key junctions, they installed limestone sluice gates, essentially ancient valves that allowed water managers to control flow direction. During heavy rains, these gates could divert excess water away from full reservoirs toward empty ones. During dry periods, they could be adjusted to minimize water loss. Dr. Christopher Carr, who studied the Palenque system in 2012, noted that the level of hydraulic understanding required to build these systems suggests the Maya had specialists, what we might call civil engineers, who understood fluid dynamics. The canals also featured settling basins every few hundred meters, wider sections where water would slow down, allowing suspended particles to drop out before the water continued to storage areas. This attention to water quality wasn't accidental. It was designed into the system from the beginning. Now we arrive at the heart of the Maya water system, the reservoirs themselves, known as aguadas. These weren't simple holes in the ground. At Tikal alone, archaeologists have identified at least 10 major reservoirs, creating what researchers call a staggered battery system of water storage. The largest, the Palace Reservoir, measures approximately 70 meters long by 30 meters wide and 4 meters deep, with a capacity estimated at 75,000 cubic meters, enough to supply 10,000 people for 18 months. But here's where it gets fascinating. The reservoirs were built at different elevations, connected by the canal system we just discussed. Why? The Maya understood redundancy and risk management. If one reservoir became contaminated through algae bloom or animal waste, others remained clean. If one ran dry, gravity-fed channels could still distribute water from higher reservoirs to lower areas of the city. This wasn't a single tank. It was a network, a distributed system that ancient engineers designed to be resilient against failure. When we analyze the construction of these reservoirs, the sophistication becomes even clearer. The Maya didn't just dig and fill. They lined their reservoirs with layers of materials specifically chosen for water retention and purification. Let's zoom in on the reservoir lining system because this is where Maya engineering truly shines. Excavations at Tikal and other sites reveal a multi-layered approach that would fit comfortably in a modern water treatment manual. The bottom layer consisted of tightly packed clay, sometimes up to 50 centimeters thick, creating an impermeable seal that prevented water from seeping into the porous limestone bedrock. Above this, the Maya placed a layer of sand, typically 10 to 15 centimeters deep, which served as a filter medium. As water entered the reservoir from the canals, it would percolate through this sand layer, removing suspended particles and some organic matter. But the Maya didn't stop there. Recent research by Dr. David Lentz from the University of Cincinnati, published in 2020, revealed something extraordinary. The Maya deliberately planted specific species of aquatic plants in their reservoirs, species that we now know have natural antibacterial properties. Sediment analysis shows high concentrations of pollen from plants in the Cyperaceae family, sedges that not only oxygenate water but also release compounds that inhibit harmful bacteria. The Maya also constructed internal dividing walls in larger reservoirs, creating compartmentalized sections. This served multiple purposes. It reduced water movement that could stir up sediments, created zones of different depths for different uses, and allowed one section to be cleaned or repaired while others remained operational. Think of it as ancient modular design, segments that could function independently or together depending on needs. The question of water quality obsessed the Maya, and for good reason. Contaminated water in a closed system could devastate an entire city. Archaeological evidence shows the Maya implemented what we would recognize as water treatment protocols. At multiple sites, researchers have found evidence of sand and gravel filtration systems at reservoir inlets. Before water entered the main storage area, it passed through constructed filtration beds, sometimes several meters long, where coarse gravel caught large debris, medium gravel trapped smaller particles, and fine sand provided final filtration. Dr. Tankersley, a geochemist who analyzed mineral deposits in Maya reservoirs, discovered that the Maya selected specific types of zeolite-bearing volcanic rock for these filters. Zeolites are natural molecular sieves that can remove heavy metals and certain organic compounds from water. Did the Maya understand the chemistry? Probably not in modern terms. But through observation and experimentation, they learned that water passing through these particular rocks tasted better and seemed to keep people healthier. That's empirical science. They also understood sedimentation and settling time. By examining the design of settling basins and the presence of multiple compartments within reservoirs, we can see that the Maya allowed water to sit undisturbed in entry pools, where gravity would pull suspended particles downward over hours or days. Only the clearer water from the upper layers would then flow into the main reservoir. This is exactly how modern water treatment plants operate, just without pumps or electricity. But perhaps most impressive is how the Maya protected their stored water once it was in the reservoirs. They understood that their greatest challenge wasn't just collecting and storing water, it was keeping it clean and drinkable for 6 months of dry season. Evidence from multiple sites shows sophisticated access control. At Tikal, the palace reservoir has a series of stone steps leading down to the water level, but these steps are narrow and controlled, not allowing mass access. Researchers believe water managers, likely tied to the ruling elite or priestly class, controlled who could access drinking water directly. Separate areas existed for different uses, one section for drinking water collection, another for washing, another for watering temple gardens or mixing plaster for construction. This segregation prevented contamination from dirty containers or bodies. The Maya also built their reservoirs deep rather than wide when possible. A deep reservoir has less surface area exposed to sunlight, which reduces evaporation dramatically in the intense tropical heat. It also minimizes algae growth, which requires sunlight for photosynthesis. Some reservoirs at Tikal are shaded by surrounding structures or trees, another deliberate design choice to keep water cool and reduce biological growth. Modern calculations suggest that Maya reservoirs, due to their depth and shading, lost approximately 30 to 40% less water to evaporation than an equivalent modern open reservoir would lose in the same climate. What's even more remarkable is the social organization required to maintain these systems. Water infrastructure is only as good as its maintenance, and the Maya understood this intimately. Evidence from hieroglyphic texts and archaeological remains of tools suggests that cities had dedicated work crews responsible for reservoir and canal maintenance. Before the rainy season began, canals would be cleared of accumulated debris and sediment. Reservoir walls would be inspected and repaired. Filter beds would be cleaned or replaced. During the dry season, as water levels dropped, crews would enter reservoirs to remove accumulated sludge from the bottom, essentially dredging operations performed with nothing but baskets and manpower. This wasn't random labor. It was scheduled, organized, and essential. Dr. Lisa Lucero, an archaeologist who has studied Maya political organization, argues that control over water systems was a primary source of political power. Rulers who could ensure water supplies during drought maintained legitimacy. Those who let systems fail lost authority. This created a powerful incentive for continuous maintenance and improvement of water infrastructure. Recent excavations have even found evidence of emergency protocols. At some sites, when primary reservoirs ran dangerously low, the Maya apparently implemented water rationing, with hieroglyphic records suggesting that certain ceremonies were postponed and some construction projects halted to conserve water for drinking and cooking. Now let's address the scale of what we're discussing. At its height around 700 CE, the Maya civilization supported an estimated 10 to 15 million people across the Yucatan Peninsula and Central American lowlands. In cities like Tikal, Calakmul, Calakmul, and Caracol, populations ranged from 50,000 to over 100,000. These were true urban centers, comparable in population to many medieval European cities. Yet unlike London with the Thames or Paris with the Seine, Maya cities had no permanent rivers, no lakes, no reliable natural water sources beyond seasonal rain. Every drop of water consumed, used for cooking, for making the lime plaster that covered their temples, for the ritual baths of priests. All of it came from rain collected, stored, and managed through human engineering. Modern hydrological studies estimate that a Maya city of 50,000 people would require approximately 150,000 to 200,000 cubic meters of water storage to survive a 6-month dry season. The reservoir system at Tikal alone had a combined capacity exceeding 250,000 cubic meters, with additional water stored in thousands of household cisterns called chultuns. These chultuns were bell-shaped chambers carved into bedrock beneath homes and courtyards, each holding 5 to 10 cubic meters, individually small but collectively representing massive distributed storage across the city. Dr. Scarborough estimates that when you combine public reservoirs with private chultuns, Maya cities had enough water capacity to survive drought periods of up to 2 years, assuming strict conservation. That's not survival, that's thriving. The engineering knowledge required to design these systems raises fascinating questions about Maya science and education. How did knowledge of hydraulics, filtration, and water management pass from generation to generation? We know the Maya had a sophisticated writing system, detailed astronomical knowledge, and advanced mathematics, including the concept of zero. Evidence suggests they had schools attached to royal courts where elite children, including future engineers and architects, received formal education. But much knowledge was likely passed down through apprenticeship, young engineers learning by working alongside masters on construction projects, observing the principles in action. When we examine the consistency of design features across Maya cities, separated by hundreds of kilometers and sometimes centuries, we see standardized solutions. The same gradient ratios in canals, similar multi-layer reservoir construction, comparable filtration systems. This suggests either direct transmission of engineering knowledge between cities or a shared educational tradition that ensured certain fundamental principles were maintained. Some researchers have proposed that there may have been engineering texts, codice is now lost, that documented water system design principles. Of the thousands of Maya books that once existed, only 4 survive today, and none deal primarily with engineering. But references in surviving texts to water knowledge and those who understand the flow hint at specialized expertise that was recognized and valued. Let's compare what the Maya achieved to other ancient water systems to appreciate the magnitude of their accomplishment. The Roman aqueducts are justifiably famous, massive stone structures that carried water across valleys and hills to supply Rome and other cities. But Rome had permanent water sources, rivers, springs, lakes. The Romans were transporting water from one place to another. The Maya were capturing ephemeral rainfall and making it last for months. The ancient Nabateans who built Petra had to manage water in a desert environment, but they had winter rains and some permanent springs. The Maya had seasonal rain but no backup. Perhaps the closest parallel is the ancient Sinhalese civilization of Sri Lanka, which built massive tanks and reservoir systems to store monsoon rains. The similarities are striking. Both civilizations faced seasonal water extremes. Both developed multi-reservoir systems. Both lasted for centuries based on this technology. But the Maya did it without metal tools. The Sinhalese had iron implements. The Maya shaped every stone, carved every canal, excavated every reservoir using stone chisels, wooden levers, and human muscle power. When modern engineers attempt to recreate Maya construction techniques using only the tools the Maya would have had, they consistently find that projects take far longer and require far more skill than anticipated. But here's where the story takes a sobering turn. The Maya water system, sophisticated as it was, had vulnerabilities. Current research suggests that climate change, specifically an extended period of severe droughts between 800 and 1000 CE, played a significant role in the collapse of classic Maya civilization. When we core sediment samples from ancient Maya reservoirs, we find evidence of dramatically lowered water levels during this period, layers of dried mud and dust indicating years when reservoirs ran completely dry. The system that had worked for centuries was overwhelmed by climate conditions more extreme than its designers had planned for. Dr. Douglas Kennett's 2012 study, published in Science, used isotope analysis to document a series of severe droughts, some lasting decades, that coincided with the abandonment of major Maya cities. The water infrastructure didn't fail due to poor design. It failed because the climate exceeded its capacity. Cities that had thrived for 500 years were abandoned within a generation. This isn't a story of primitive people failing to adapt. It's a story of advanced engineering pushed beyond its tolerances by environmental catastrophe. Even modern cities with all our technology can fail when water supplies are disrupted. Ask California during megadroughts, or Cape Town during its water crisis. The Maya faced something even more severe without the option to import water from elsewhere. Yet not all Maya cities collapsed. Some, particularly in regions with access to cenotes, natural sinkholes providing access to groundwater, survived and even thrived. Cities like Chichen Itza, in the northern Yucatan continued to flourish precisely because they combined the sophisticated water management techniques we've discussed with access to these natural water sources. This demonstrates that the Maya were adaptive, that they could modify their approach based on local conditions. In fact, Maya civilization never truly disappeared. Millions of Maya descendants live in the Yucatan, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras today, many still speaking Maya languages, maintaining cultural traditions, and yes, in some rural areas, still using traditional water harvesting techniques modified for modern needs. The knowledge didn't vanish. It evolved. Modern Yucatec Maya farmers still build systems to capture and store rainwater during the dry season, using concrete instead of limestone, but following principles their ancestors established over 1,000 years ago. When international development organizations come to rural Maya regions to teach water conservation, they often find locals can teach them instead, drawing on centuries of inherited wisdom about managing water in challenging environments. So, what do we take away from the Maya water story? First, it's a powerful reminder that ancient peoples were not less intelligent than we are. They faced different challenges and developed different solutions, but the sophistication of their engineering, the depth of their understanding of natural systems, and the organizational capacity to build and maintain infrastructure over centuries, all of this equals or exceeds what many modern societies achieve. Second, it shows us that sustainable water management isn't a new concept invented by 21st century environmentalists. The Maya understood carrying capacity, resource conservation, and long-term planning. Their system worked for over 500 years until climate conditions exceeded any reasonable design parameters. Third, there's a warning here for our time. The Maya water system failed when climate became too extreme. We're entering a period of climate instability, with more severe droughts, more intense flooding, more unpredictable rainfall. Are our modern water systems designed with enough resilience? Do we have the redundancy the Maya built into their networks? Can we maintain our infrastructure through political and economic changes the way Maya cities maintained theirs through dynastic transitions? These aren't academic questions. They're survival questions, and the Maya experience, both their successes and their ultimate vulnerabilities, offers lessons we'd be wise to consider. Finally, this is a story about human ingenuity and adaptation. The Maya looked at a landscape that seemed impossible for dense urban civilization. No rivers, seasonal drought, porous limestone, and they created a solution so effective it supported millions of people. They didn't conquer nature through brute force. They worked with natural patterns, capturing rain when it fell, storing it when possible, using gravity and natural filtration, organizing socially to maintain the system. That's elegant engineering, the kind that doesn't fight against natural systems but incorporates them. What's your take on the Maya water systems? Do you think modern cities could learn from these ancient techniques, especially as climate change makes water more unpredictable? Have you encountered other examples of ancient water management that rival Maya sophistication? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into Maya engineering fascinating, you'll want to check out our video on ancient Inca road systems that crossed the Andes, another civilization that achieved what seemed impossible with the technology of their time. And if you're interested in how ancient peoples understood and manipulated their environment through observation and experimentation, what we might call indigenous science, hit that subscribe button because we explore these stories of human ingenuity regularly. The past isn't primitive. It's full of solutions we're only now learning to appreciate. Until next time, keep questioning what you think you know about ancient civilizations. The answers are usually more interesting than we imagined.